Looking for a take-along or HOA usable vertical antenna? Let's take a look at the MFJ 2286 Big Stick. Hi, and welcome to the Gadget Talk channel, where we do reviews and how-tos on a variety of electronic gadgets that catch my eye. In this video, we're going to take a look at a portable vertical antenna from MFJ. The MFJ 2286 vertical multiband HF antenna has been around for a while and remains a solid choice for those looking for a portable antenna for what I'd call picnic table portable. At just over 2 pounds, it might be more than you'd like to take along on a long backpack trip, but for a short walk to a park pavilion or picnic table with a quick setup, it's an easy carry. The same thing applies for a temporary installation in your backyard if you have to deal with a pesky HOA. The MFJ 2286 comes in 2 flavors. The basic Big Stick comes with a mirror mount that you can use to mount to most ground stakes, a coil with an alligator clip to tune the coil, and a 17-foot extension whip, and 50 feet of wire for 4 radials. The Big Stick package version comes with everything in the basic system, plus a tripod and a carrying case. It's about $80 more. One of the interesting things about the Big Stick is that it is composed of 3 parts that you can get separately. In fact, the mirror mount and the whip came in their standalone retail packaging. The coil was in a plain box. I paid about $140 in December of 2022 at HRO. Purchased separately, the components come to about $195, so the 2286 product saves you about $55, not counting the wire. There are a couple of things to note about the coil. First, you can run up to 1000 watts PEP on this coil. The very popular Wolf River brand coils top out at 100 watts single sideband and about 20 watts digital. My FT710 outputs 100 watts, so that's not an issue for single sideband, but I'm often above 20 watts on digital modes. Second, the coil only adds the 30 and 40 meter bands. The whip by itself covers 2, 6, 10, 12, 15, 17, and 20 meters. That being said, 40 meters is pretty important, and at $140, why wouldn't you? As you'll see when we unpack the kit, I got a 36-inch $17 tripod case from Amazon that fits everything nicely. I also used a round plastic container that held bungee cords from Harbor Freight to protect the coil during transport and storage. I've been very happy with the Big Stick so far. From my home in Phoenix and portable ops in Quartzsite at the Quartzfest Ham Convention, I've reached all over the U.S., Asiatic Russia, Spain, Belize, Argentina, Cuba, England, Canada, Japan, Puerto Rico, and the west coast of Africa. Most of those contacts were with less than 50 watts. I did some measurements on the advertised bands using my little Mini 60 antenna analyzer. Here's what I got with the antenna as it comes out of the box. I'll include some screenshots from the Mini 60's app. On 40 meters, the best SWR I could get was about 1.85 to 1, with the trough of the dip covering most of the band at that level. At 20, I got 1.3 to 1, sloping up to about 1.8 to 1 at the top end of the band. At 17, I got 1.02 to 1, which was flat throughout the band. 15 was 1.14 to 1, and like 17 meters, the curve was flat. 12 was about 1.34 to 1 and was likewise flat. 10 was 1.18 to 1 and, again, was also pretty flat. Last, 6 meters was about 1.24 to 1 and was flat, although this screenshot doesn't show the entire band. It's important to note that below 20 meters, the coil was shorted out and the tuning was done by changing the antenna's length. Let's go down to the workshop where I've got some space to spread out and you'll see what you'll get. So now we're out in the workshop on a table so I can get this all spread out for you. And you can see the major parts that come with the 2286 antenna. First is the case, and the case is something I bought separately on Amazon. It's a tripod carrying case. It was about $17. Next on the way down is the expandable whip, and that whip is the same as the standalone 1979 or whatever it is antenna that you can get, and that is pretty strong. It extends out. I'll show you that in just a minute. And then over here on this side, I've got 4 wire winders, and they're probably a little bigger than I needed, but I've got each of the 4 radials wrapped around those so they don't turn into a big fur ball here in the case. In the middle is the ground stake, and then on the end is the coil that I've got in an old jar that came with some Harbor Freight bungee cords that just worked perfectly. So let's take a closer look at the ground stake. So the ground stake is on a 12-inch nail I got at Lowe's, and you can see right here that the little V's for grabbing onto whatever it is, I have that turned 90 degrees so it'll grab a smaller stake than having it aligned with the other curve. And then on this end, we've got the antenna connector right there and an SO239 right there. Now here, because it has such a wide area to put a fairly large ground stake in, it's got those screws that go through. And what I did there was, after I got it mounted and tightened with these little nuts, I added a couple of M6 wing nuts, which is what I use to connect the radials. And with 4 of those screws coming through the stake mount there, you can have a whole field of as many radials as you might want to do. In my test so far, I've just been using the antenna as it comes out of the box with 4 12-foot radials. Next is the coil, and this is a large coil. You can get it separately. On this end here is the part that connects to the antenna mount or the mirror mount that we just looked at. You've got the coils along here. You've got the shorting cable that we'll use to tune the coil to the band we're looking for, and then we'll attach the whip at this end. Now at 20 meters it says to tune the coil at about 5/8 of an inch, and so that's about right up here. At 40 meters it asks for 3 3/8 inches. Again, measuring from the top, it's down about right here, and so it's just a matter of clipping the alligator clip to the particular ring of that coil, and then going up and down the ring until you get the SWR where you want it. You can also make fine adjustments on the coil by plugging the little clip here across or down on the side, because you're basically changing the length in relatively small amounts, and so that'll be the goal. Now to protect this, as I mentioned, I'm just using a case that came with some bungee cords from Harbor Freight. I cut a hole in the top and put a little foam support in the bottom, and that allows the coil to rest safely in the box while it's in the case, and I don't worry about risking any damage. So that's the pieces parts. Now let's go outside and set this thing up. Okay, so here I've got the antenna set up in my backyard. It's kind of a demo for you to see what it looks like. You can see that there's one radial going here. I've got another radial over there where that blue wire winder is. Another one over here, and then another one that comes back toward me. And then the coax coming off the bottom of the mirror mount. Now if we go in close, we can see the radials connected with the wing nuts onto the mounting screws there on the mirror mount. So that makes it really handy. And then we see the coil, and the coil is shorted right now at about the 40 meter point. To give you an idea of how that works, when you put the alligator clip at the very, very top that shorts the whole coil. And that's where it's going to be for many of the bands, because you're going to adjust that just using the expandable whip itself. And so here's the whip. At its full 17 feet. And then just for fun, you can see that the coil is completely shorted out, and this is the antenna length for the 6 meter band. So it's just a little 4.5 foot spike sticking out of the ground if you wanted to try some 6 meter activity with this little antenna. So, what did you think? I thought the build quality was good, and there was quite a bit of friction when extending or collapsing the whip, which is a good thing. Please keep in mind that my purpose here was to demonstrate the Big Stick as it comes out of the box. For those of you who have a strong interest in vertical antennas and radials, you may be saying to yourselves that there were not enough radials or they were the wrong lengths. Fine. With the mirror mount screws, you have plenty of contacts to attach radials and experiment with how you want to set up your radial field. For me, this was $140 well spent. I can set this up in my HOA backyard, leave it up when I'm using it, and collapse the whip below the level of the yard's privacy wall when I'm done to keep things out of sight. It's also great for portable ops as it packs small and sets up fast. Besides the tripod case, the only thing you might want to add to your kit is a tape measure to set the whip's length before any fine tuning. However, with an antenna analyzer like the Mini 60, you can just guess at the length and adjust the SWR meters to meet the demand. If you're interested in working digital modes while portable, join me over here where I'll demo a neat little GPS receiver to set your computer's clock. As always, please subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel, and thanks for watching. 73.